It's a gloomy day outside of CGX Central. Snow's coming. Seems like perfect weather to do some more work on my Booknook. Yes, that was an incredibly cheesy introduction. Just trying something different. So, this piece here is the one that I broke yesterday. Specifically, this section right here. The leg snapped off. I used our old friend, Elmer's glue, and let it dry overnight, and it seems to be relatively solid. I keep trying to decide if it's out of alignment, if it's leaning, and I can't quite decide. But I also don't want to screw around with it too much because I don't know just how strong that repair is. So we're just going to let it go with that and hope for the best. In the meantime, since I last recorded, I assembled this piece here, which is the front facade of our bookstore. It went pretty well. I will have to say that each one of these little corbels up here, I think that's the right word, corbel, is a separate little piece. They are tiny. And in getting them off of the sheet and then sanding the burr off, I wore the color off of pretty much every one of these front faces, and it looked pretty crappy. So I resorted to the brown marker that I used on the Nativity project from one of my earlier videos, and I think it turned out okay. If you look really closely, the color doesn't match perfectly, but once the rest of the structure is built and all of this is enclosed, I don't think anybody will ever notice it. You'll be looking at it from an angle when you look into the Booknook. So I am going to put the phone on the tripod now and put the facade in place and then get to work with next steps. Okay, so the facade mounts into these two holes here. Hopefully it's all lined up. There's that snapping sound. And there we are. Kirkdale Books, which doesn't sound very Parisian, but what the heck. Looks nice. So I wasn't too sure about these little plastic sheets for the windows, but once it's in place, works pretty well. Okay, on to the next thing. The sign. After my little misadventure with the corbels, I've got to learn to be a little less aggressive with the sandpaper. I don't want to have to recolor everything. taken enough out of this sheet that it's getting kind of fragile. I'm worried about popping everything out before I'm ready for it. Okay, I've managed to pop that in, and we have not broken the legs, so the glue is holding. That's good. Now I have to try to get all of this to line up. And there we go. That was easier than I was fearing. And it appears to be solid. The door is a little weird. It's just kind of hanging there. I think that would work better if it had some kind of a hinge mechanism on it. Things to write to Rolife about, I suppose. I am impressed with some of the details on this kit. One thing that I noticed, so this floor surface here, this we can now see is the alleyway outside the shop. There are going to be little cafe tables that will plug into these slots. But look at this. There are scuff marks on the tile, cracks and signs of wear. That's a nice detail. That's a level of realism that I frankly didn't expect, and I at least really dig that sort of thing. I need to find sheet E. Okay, just test fitting that out. I want to see how it goes together before I stick it down. Like that, I suppose. I am really not wild about these plastic sheets that simulate windows. I wish they were thicker, a little more substantial. Alright, I've had a bit of confusion and had to stop and study things because there is printing on this little fake window here. It's apparently a post office. And the way I'm reading the instructions, it's telling me to basically install it backwards from the way I would think to do it. This appears to be the T here. I still haven't quite figured out what the deal is. I'm still not real confident about it. But I do know there's a mirror that goes back here that extends the illusion of the alley. So possibly the reverse printing has to do with that. I don't know. I'll follow the instructions and hopefully it doesn't end up as a big disaster. If I can figure out how to get the protective sheet off the plastic. There it goes. All right, there it is. Hopefully I didn't do it wrong. Voila. Onto a new page. I'm finding that for these little tiny pieces, it's sometimes useful to use the knife here to push them out. That might be the smallest one to date. Alright, here we have something that I've been concerned about all the way along. There's a definite alignment problem. I need to get this peg into this hole here somehow, and it's not cooperating with me. Ah, there it goes. Just have to be persistent, I guess. So, voila. We have now constructed a kind of a counter, I guess. Another door. Which means another little transparency for a window and more of these damned adhesive strips. Got the tweezers. Transparencies. K5. So our post office door window here. Alright, the instructions show the adhesive strips going directly onto the transparency. I'm going to put them on the door because I'm just more comfortable with that. If If I screw up, I think it'll be easier to deal with that than deal with a mess on the transparency. Yeah, see what I mean? If I had that problem in placing the strip on the transparency, I think it would have been a huge mess. And there we go. Might be a little crooked. Maybe not. It lines up with the markers pretty well. All right. I think I'm going to go off camera and construct a little bit more and maybe grab some lunch. And I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, after a little bit of fiddling about with this very small fastener piece here, I've got the facade for the post office constructed. I think there's supposed to be a transom that goes in here. That's probably the next step that I haven't gotten to yet. This one transparency that was just sort of loose and flopping is now connected here. The peg goes through the transparency, and this black piece ties it all together in the back. Again, the alignment's a little weird. I'm going to assume as more of the structure gets built, it will probably solidify that. I hope so. As it is, it's the floppiness of it kind of bugs me. But it's also possible I'm just being a little OCD about that. I think generally speaking, this little imaginary street is coming together pretty nicely. And we're going to leave things right there for the time being. I actually took a lot more raw footage on the day that you've been watching, but I've grown very self-conscious about the length of these videos. I worry about you folks getting bored. I would like to keep them under 30 minutes, ideally down around 20. So I'm going to break it right here and continue the rest of this particular day's work in the next installment. So, as ever, please share your thoughts, leave comments, and if you haven't already, like and subscribe. And we'll see you right back here for the next exciting chapter. Have a good one, folks.